Welcome to Voices in the Community, where we share the stories and conversations with the students, staff, and community members who make a difference in Franklin Township. I'm Dr. Chase Huotari, Superintendent of Franklin Township Community School Corporation, and today we're talking all things mock trial. I was on Facebook the other day and noticed that we had two award winners at our current state competition for mock trial, and I wanted to learn a little bit more about mock trial, and I figured our community would want to hear a little bit more about mock trial. So I have Bella and Ingrid with me from the mock trial team. So Ingrid, why don't you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about what you do at FC?
My name is Ingrid Oliver. I'm a junior and I'm super excited for college.
Awesome. Any idea just right now, if you had to make a choice, where are you heading off to, Ingrid?
Um, Maybe IU Indy.
IUND, awesome. I was just on campus, and their new chancellor is wonderful, and they're doing great things over at IUND. Great campus. Bella, why don't you introduce yourself?
My name is Bella Cortez. I'm a junior, and my hope is to go to IU Bloomington.
IU Bloomington, and what do you think that you're going to go into? Because it seems like the activities I've seen you involved with, you've got a path that you might be thinking about in college. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm probably gonna go into history in my undergrad, and then my hope is to continue into law school.
That's awesome. Okay, so Ingrid, if somebody hadn't heard of mock trial, they had no idea what it is. How do you explain mock trial to someone?
I was definitely in this position at the beginning of this year, so I can understand how it might be a little confusing. But basically, what mock trial is it's an entirely student run program where people act as both the attorneys and witnesses in a case. So the Indiana Bar Foundation releases the affidavits, or basically just the witness statements for a case. And then based on that, it is up to the attorneys placed on either the defense or the plaintiff to try and spin up their own narrative about how the legality of the case is. And then we have people acting as the witnesses that will work with their respective attorneys to just ultimately, the goal is to do a trial run through exactly how it would be in an actual courtroom, or as close to that as it could be.
Okay, so Bella, go a little bit further because I know there's like roles on the team. How many people are on a team, and then like how does that all work together? I read, or I started to read, that court case is really long. There's a lot of facts in that case. So how does this all come together as a team to bring this court case to life?
Yeah, so there are three, attorneys and witnesses on either side. And so each attorney is assigned a witness that they direct examine or ask questions to help their case, and then cross examine, which have questions to, like defame the other side. And so each person gets assigned to two witnesses, and then the witnesses have to like memorize their entire witness statement or affidavit, and like create answers based off of like those, facts of the case that they know.
So are we competing against like other schools? Is this just us putting on the trial? So like, are we on the prosecution side and somebody else on the defense side? Bella, how does that work out in competition?
In a competition, our say prosecution would go against another team's defense. So like, for example, in our competition this past month, it was our prosecution versus like rebuff, for example.
Okay. So, Ingrid, tell me a little bit about the case itself. It was pretty interesting that it was actually related to schools. I don't know if it's always that way. So, Ingrid, tell me a little bit about the case that you guys covered this year.
It's definitely not always about schools, but this year it was. So, this year was a student suing a school corporation for negligence because they neglected to respond to the harassment that he or she was facing. So, it was also connected to mock trial itself, as the student was experiencing bullying after dropping out of mock trial. And yeah, the prosecution had the duty to prove negligence in this case of the school corporation, which was really interesting to break down too.
Okay, that is fascinating. So, what role did you play this year, Ingrid, in this? Like, what part did you have when you got to the state competition?
I was an attorney for the prosecution, so I was on the side of the student who was being harassed.
Okay, so as you dug through the facts of this case, was it just all brand new learning for you, or did you find that other things that you've learned throughout your academic career kind of mixed into looking at this? Because the law side of this is very, very unique. So where did you start, and how did this connect with things maybe you've done before?
Most of it was definitely brand new, but I had taken Mr. Cornelius's law class the year before. So I had like a baseline level knowledge of like how a court system works. And I also definitely used just some text interpretation and analysis from like English classes that I'd taken before. And so it's just really kind of synthesizing like your analysis skills and your ability to just interpret what's important. And then the new part was definitely formatting that into a more legal sense and like breaking it down into how the law works instead of just like how you feel it works.
Right. So did you have to like dig into like prior case law? Do they have you get that far in depth to when you're coming in and you are, prosecuting this? Are you looking at prior case law, or are you just coming up with arguments off the top based just on this case?
Mock trial has specific rules, so everything has to be directly in the case that they give you. So you actually can't pull from like prior court precedents, but they give you the charges that you're trying to defend and they give you like the claims that you're trying to dispute and stuff like that. And for this case specifically, since we were claiming negligence, um, there are four legal aspects to negligence that we were like told to prove.
Okay. So let's flip to the other side of it. Bella, if I understand right, you played the defense attorney.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So talk to me a little bit about the difference between, the prosecution and the defense in terms of your preparation. Do you have to take a different look at it? You're defending somebody that may have been negligent. How did you look at this case, and how did you attack it?
This case, the split for, between defense and prosecution was more of a looking at things emotionally versus looking at things like through the legal side. So for the defense, since we were defending the entire school corporation and not just one, individual employee, it changed it a little bit. So we focused less on the actions of the employees and more of the, preventative measures that the school took to protect its students. Um, but we definitely had to look at things a lot more like legally than the prosecution did. They tried to appeal more to emotions.
And are you in an actual courtroom? Like, where is this held at?
It's held at the Indiana courtroom just downtown.
Okay.
So we do all of the competitions there.
That's awesome. Ingrid, how's this thing scored, right? Like, so you go up as the prosecution, and you're up against another school, and it's an actual court case in terms of looking at this. How is this scored at the end of the day?
So the judges are usually just like attorneys who volunteered to do this. And for each court case, or for just each case, there's a presiding judge. So that's who will act as the judge in this court case, but they will also score. And then usually there are like one or two additional judges who will also be scoring, but they act kind of as the jury. And each judge they have a rubric. So they'll like rank the cross examination out of 10, or they'll do the direct examination out of 10. And then those are kind of averaged at the end and compared to other schools.
So I'm fascinated. I'm gonna go a little bit further when you talk about cross-examination, right? Because everybody sees this on TV, and you see like the lawyers huddle at the table, they're listening to what the witness says, and then they get a chance to cross-examine. Is this what's actually happening in mock trial? And if so, who are you talking to at the table to come up with your quick cross-examination in the moment?
Well, we have our cross-examination kind of prepared, so
Okay.
we usually have that locked and loaded, so there's not too much like talking at the table beforehand, but after the cross-examination, if the other team decides to do redirect, we might be brainstorming with our fellow attorneys on what to bring up again in recross just to really hone those points in and maybe dispute anything that they try and bring up in redirect. So there's a little bit of that going on for sure.
Wow. So then to go further, that Bella, like, can you object? Like, I'm thinking of all the TV shows that I've seen now, and also I really enjoy listening to weirdly enough, like Supreme Court podcasts, especially when the Supreme Court's in session. I love listening to the arguments on all of the different cases that roll through the Supreme Court. So Bella, like, can you object? Does the judge intervene? I'm envisioning this now just as an actual courtroom, like you guys were talking about, and it's running through. So do you have all those things that happen during the trial as well?
Yeah, mock trial rules are slightly different than a normal case. So we have, a certain scope of objections we're actually allowed to, enter in, because there's just so much limited information. But you can totally object if someone gets a fact wrong, or, they're badgering, just all of the main objections that you would hear in like a court TV show. You would see in mock trial, we got hit with a lot of hearsay objections in our competition, but it just adds to the thrill of it.
That's pretty cool. So talk about like just the preparation, Ingrid. You mentioned Mr. Cornelius. I think I saw him maybe in the picture with the team. When did you guys start? When did you get the case? Like, how long did this go on before you actually had competition?
It's definitely been a couple months. I think we maybe interviewed first quarter, I think, and then we really just did jump right into it. We started with they released the case in late October. So, but before October, the team had already been made, so we did a different fake case to kind of see like who would be better as an attorney, who would be better as a witness, kind of what everyone's strengths are. So after we did that, then Mr. Cornelius like chose the roles for everyone after the official case was released in October. And that's when we really started to get into the nitty-gritty of this specific case.
So you said you didn't really know what mock trial was before you got involved this year. What spurred your interest? How did you get into it?
Well, I had heard from a few of my friends who were also trying out, and I was really interested in Mr. Cornelius's law class, and I liked the idea of it. I've always wondered if maybe, law school could be a path for me, and I figured might as well try it out now, see if I like it. So just gave it a shot.
Well, I knew just from Bella's trip to DC this last summer and some of the other things, I knew she was kind of on that path. That's why I asked her. But it's kind of an interesting thing to be a part of. So we just have a couple minutes. I like to keep these to just about 15 minutes, kind of bite size. But one of the things I always like to ask people at the end of this, as part of our mission, it's to make a difference. And I always want to ask people about the people that have made a difference in their lives. And so when you think back to kind of your academic career, the people that kind of helped you out along the way, who's maybe somebody, that made a difference for you that kind of got you to where you're at now? Bella, I'll start off with you.
Really the main one that I can think of, is Mrs. Campbell. She really, started off my whole like career into being more, talkative and out there. And that gave me the courage to try out for mock trial in the first place. But really just all my social studies teachers have inspired me along the way.
So you got into it right away. So was there a specific high school, a specific course at some point that you were like, yeah, social studies and kind of the history side of things is my thing? Was it once you got to high school and you had more options?
Really, I think the start of it was We the People in 8th grade. That course, I really fell in love with American history. I had already loved it, but that was just like the catalyst. And since then I knew that, I loved all of the government and law and, history aspects.
You might have been one of the first groups to go through We the People, because we haven't had many in 8th grade. You might have been one of the first groups. We didn't have it for the longest time. How about you, Ingrid?
Miss Campbell's a good one for sure. It was a combination of, like I said, I did take Mr. Cornelius's law class, which kind of got me, I like dipped my toes into the legal aspect, but Miss Huff this year has also been really helpful in like emboldening my confidence in my own writing and, my way of thinking and interpreting text for sure.
You guys are unbelievable. You're so well spoken, and I could see why you guys did a great job. But I didn't mention the awards that you got. Bella, what did you receive at trial? I can't remember.
Outstanding attorney.
And Ingrid, is that what you got as well?
Yes.
Awesome. And how did the competition go for us? Did we happen to move on? I just saw you guys' awards.
We did not move on. However, we did improve from last year. Last year we had ended up in 12th, and this year we were 9th. So we were just on the cusp of making it up to state, but we were, I think, 26 points behind the 8th place team.
That's awesome. How many years have we had a mock trial team? When I was at the high school, I don't remember us having a mock trial team. Do you guys know? Has this been going on for a while?
2. So I've been in it for all of the years that it's been going on. I, started my sophomore year. Yeah.
Man, well, anyway, you guys are unbelievable. I always tell people, I know it's a podcast and we're talking here, but if you ever need anything from me, let me know. I'm really impressed with how you guys represent yourselves and the work that you did with mock trial. Sky's the limit. Don't limit yourself in what you study out there in college. And for our listeners, our parents out there, if you want to see purposeful learning in action and want to see what the future looks like, they will restore your faith in humanity. You guys do a wonderful job. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next episode.